going to be looking at the warnings coming from the government bench, one from the Minister of Territorial Administration and the other from the Minister of Communication, warning planned protesters that are expected to take to the streets of Cameroon on the 22nd of September to oust President Paul Biya, a move that is led by the leader of the CRM movement, Professor Maurice Kamto, in conjunction with some of the political parties. We have seen him meeting with the likes of the leaders of Stand Up for Cameroon. We have seen him with the leaders of Moderna Party, PEP, amongst others. We equally are going to be looking at other issues touching on our national life with our panelists who are already in the house. We are using this opportunity to welcome on this edition of the program Apostle Ambe. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, my co-panelists. Good evening, listeners of Prime Hour and Cameroonians as a whole. We are here also again, and another opportunity granted us to discuss this very sensitive and very important topic as far as our nation Cameroon is concerned. These are very deciding factors that can determine the outcome of our nation tomorrow. So we are here to educate the public and to sensitize each and everyone to know that we have a stand as far as this particular stuff is concerned.
Also with us is Prince Joel, who is a regular panelist out here with us. Good evening, Prince, and welcome.
Good evening to you, Mr. LEONARD. Good evening to Reverend Apostle Ambe. Good evening to those watching within and without Cameroon. Particular greetings to those watching in Suza and in Mutengene.
Now, from every indication, almost all the eyes and ears are tilted in Cameroon towards the 22nd of September, Prince.
Sure, Mr. Leo, when we discussed this same topic some days back, I said it's a developing story, like we call it in journalism. It's a story that will only die once the CRM backs out from their stance. But in as much as they keep pressing on, we'll keep having communiques every day. Why? Because if you go through, for instance, the communique of the Minister of Communication and Government spokesperson, René Emmanuel Sadi, is clear. No manifestation is peaceful when its aim is known. You cannot want to tell somebody who has been somewhere and has been having certain benefits and certain privileges, you tell the person, wait for me on the 22, I'm coming to take you out of that place. Even if you take a toddler and tell the toddler that this mother's breast, you take a child who is feeding the mother's breast and you want to take the child off the breast, that child starts crying. It means I want to take that child off the child's privileges. You do not expect those who work with the regime to accept, to admit that we are waiting for you to come and take us out of the ball game. And Mr. Leo, even as we're talking today, I said it the other day, even tomorrow we'll be having new developments until either the 22, the action is taken, or later on it's taken, or before. But there is no person that will ever sit and admit openly that, okay, I have accepted what you people are saying, just come and take the power. That is why different personalities, different communiques will always be coming up in as much as the CRM continues taking its stance that they want to oust the president of Cameroon.
Okay, the latest of the communiques that we have seen, it's not a communique, but one of the letters that are making rounds across social media this evening is from the CPDM youth section for Vuri 2, which is also declaring its intention to manifest on the 22nd of September. Apostle Ambe, are we seeing signs of very difficult days ahead when the CRM says I'm leading a move to oust President Paul Biya, and then we start seeing signs from within President Paul Biya's camp, from the CPDM, also indicating that, okay, if you're coming into the streets, you're going to meet us?
Yes, Mr. Leo, like I said earlier once here, it's an action that provokes a reaction.
Okay.
So Mr. Kamto has proposed protesting, and this is the first in history that somebody who wants to oust a president in power, he gives an announcement prior to the time. This is political jargon in the first place. For Maurice Kamto to announce that he wants to oust a president, and then he's telling people that on this day You don't expect the government to sit quiet. You don't expect the government to fold their arms. We've seen situations in Africa where presidents were ousted, like that of Burkina Faso. Blaise Compaoré was taken unaware. The case in Mali, Hosni Mubarak also in Egypt was taken unaware. Mugabe in Zimbabwe was taken unaware. So I think when something is going to be effective, like ousting a president in power or carrying out a coup d'etat, most of the people in question are completely blank or totally ignorant about the incident. But when you start assembling people from left to right, gather people from north to south, and then you are making another, giving a specific date, and then you are telling your enemy to prepare before you confront him, it makes no sense. Because if you look at it in the cities like places like Douala, you walk to some junctions or some carrefours, you will see military trucks standing there, and you will see armor cars, and they are already prepared. The communication of the Minister of Territorial Administration is said it is they wrote it in French, you're going to confront a beehive, and when you confront a beehive, you're going to stink you back in return. So when I see the approach to President Maurice Kamto's protest, is giving me a lot of concern, and I'm beginning to wonder if they say his strategy is actually a strategy, because you cannot be telling the enemy that you are coming to kill the enemy. You are only pushing him to get himself well prepared. There's the Vuri, I think Vuri 2, right?
Yes. Charlie Lizan.
Yeah, Charlie Lizan, who is a councillor or a high councillor at the, he says he's going to assemble youths. It's only a clear indication that they want to make Maurice Kamto understand that he's not the only person that has the Cameroon population. The CPDM equally has the Cameroon population. So if at all they are assembling youth, they should also understand that on the other side, there are also youths there. Now, if those youths come into the streets, my problem is this. Nobody's political interest is worth your blood, on both KAMTO'S side and the side of the CPDM. I tell all the youths to stay in their houses. This is my counsel for you. Stay and protect yourself, because while these people have lived their life and they are almost signing out of life, you are not going to put your head on the line to be jeopardized as a result of somebody's political interest. Those who want to go out, fine, we are not against you. You have the right to protest. As a matter of fact, it is your civil right as a citizen to protest. But constitutionally, you are supposed to protest not to oust a president, but to present a worry. But since they are protesting to oust a president, and they are announcing the date of the protest before time, to me it's a complete confused kind of protest I've never seen in my entire life in this Cameroon or in Africa as a whole. So I think these two camps that are preparing and working very hard to meet on that day, we are yet to see how the drama will unfold as the days go by.
Okay, the Minister of Territorial Administration actually says that, though it is in French, toutes personnes qui se retrouveront sur la voie publique malgré les interdictions des autorités administratives, personnes qui ont lancé mot d'ordre de manifestations par écrit sur plateau ou antenne télévision, radio, par voie des réseaux sociaux. Par ailleurs, vous réitérez mes instructions antérieures, à savoir maintien de l'ordre doit se faire sans la moindre complaisance avant, pendant et après les élections. That is saying that whosoever is involved with calling such action is giving firm instructions, because before now it says that they should be arrested and toute manifestation illégale mise en œuvre. Okay, that they should be arrested, something like that.
Sure, Mr. Leo, the Minister of the Territorial Minister, Paul Atanganji, is what we call the Interior Minister. This is a person who has the governors, who has SDOs. The SDOs, the DOs, and to an extent the chiefs, though is now the decentralization boss, George Ilanga Oba. But when you look at Paul Atanganji and what he's saying, the instructions are clear. Even a deaf man could hear, and even a blind man could start seeing the impact of what awaits any person who will take the courage to move on the streets come the 22. Reverend has said something, Mr. Leo. The last time we were discussing the same topic, because it's a developing story. It's a story that will not end now. Take it or leave it. Even tomorrow you may still be discussing the same topic. But someone may feel that we are like cowards. Like these people, if you think we don't go to the road, why are you discouraging others? But the issue is, there is a difference between a coup d'etat and an insurrection.
Of course.
A coup d'etat is the military. It means there is that military backing, like what happened on the 6th of April 1984. But what KAMTO is bringing up is called an insurrection. It means individuals, a group of persons, decide to unseat, like Rene Emmanuel Sadi put it, Republican institutions. He did not want to say the president. Because when you go through all the communique of Rene Emmanuel Sadi, there is no way he says they want to oust the president. He keeps saying whenever people want to go against Republican institutions. It means he's not only looking at the president, he's looking at anything that carries a green, red, yellow. And you do not expect the Minister of Interior, Paul Atanganji, to sit and wait people come and do this action. Mr. Leo, it is true that we still have some very brave Cameroonians. There are some people who are still courageous, like Paul Atanganji puts it very clear, that those who dare, they are going to meet a beehive. And if you also see those of the CRM, there are comments that have been coming up. They say, for instance, that a beehive is not a friend to smoke. And they keep bringing different ideologies. But the question is, how secure are the lives of those Cameroonians who take to the streets? Mr. Leo, some of us who have so many sources, I believe that on this platform before now, I've already said what Charlie Lee has said. Because Charlie Lee had told me already that if people come and if CRM wants to take to the street, he is going to ensure that his own area of command, which is New Bell, cannot be taken. That is what he said. And when you talk with some administrative officials, this is what they tell you. They keep insisting that the CRM can do whatever they want to do wherever they are, but their own area of jurisdiction should not be touched. And that will be the same question that every administrator will take. The governor of the West region has already signed a communique banning all different public gatherings in his own area of command. It means the whole of West region, which is a very strong hold for the CRM political party. And not long from now, maybe tomorrow we'll be talking about the communique of the governor for the littoral.
Yes.
Why not? Okay, and the center. Now, when you look at it, it means that at these different levels, there is nothing. If the governor, because we should be able to tell some Cameroonians, they know some, but those who don't know that, if the governor says nothing happens because the first representative of the head of state in a region, not a subdivision, is the governor. So if the littoral governor, for instance, I don't mean Douala because littoral is too big. It's a very big area. Now, if the littoral governor already says that there will be nothing in his region, it means that all the different SDOs and the DOs found in the littoral region automatically apply what the hierarchy has given them. And you do not expect that an SDO or a DO will stand and watch persons take to the streets, because it's a kind of a thing that is top to bottom. When the governor will copy his SDOs copy the DOs, and the DOs now start going to the different administrative heads, which should be the commandant, the commissioner, the commissioner in turn, the police officers. So it's something that if actually people go to the streets like they want to go, it is going to be a history-making event. I fear what will happen should people go to the street, because I keep saying something, Mr. Leo. Some of us who don't work with Roma, we don't work with ESA. When we sit with some of these authorities, and they see what is being earmarked or what has been cooked, and is prepared, they have prepared already to serve those Cameroonians who think that they are courageous enough to come to the street. Atanganji makes it very clear that suspension of a judgment, of a case file, does not mean you've won. And that should you do it again, they start from square one. The lives of Cameroonians are very important. We should not risk the life of Cameroonians.
Okay, we should not risk the lives of Cameroonians. We are going to now this one from the Minister of Communications says the Cameroon government has been appraised, of course, for an uprising and overthrow of its republican institutions by the leaders of a political party. I welcome Mr. Njoh Valentin. He is a member of the communication unit of the CPDM party. Bonsoir et bienvenue.
Bonsoir, merci. Bonsoir à tout le panel. Bonsoir aux téléspectateurs, aux multiples téléspectateurs qui nous regardent.
Okay, already we started by saying that, announcing that there is a demand from the CPDM Vuri second section, signed by Elisa, who is calling for a declaration of, who is requesting for authorization for manifestation in Douala here. Is that the position that the CPDM is taking?
Le RDPC est un parti républicain, un parti qui fonctionne sur la base des tests qui régissent le fonctionnement de notre pays, de notre République. Et par conséquent, la position du RDPC est claire. Il y a eu hier un communiqué du secrétaire général, déjà du responsable de la communication, le professeur Famendongo, qui a exhorté les citoyens camerounais de tous bords d'être patriotes, de ne pas répondre si cela est le cas, de ne pas répondre à certains appels et de vaquer à leurs occupations. Parce que, aussi naturellement, le pays fonctionne et il doit fonctionner tout sur la base des tests qui régissent le fonctionnement de la République. Oui. Donc la position du RDPC est claire, c'est celle d'un parti républicain qui accorde ou qui motive ses citoyens, les citoyens camerounais, qui motive ses membres, ses militants à adhérer aux idéaux de la République, aux idéaux du chef de l'État, qui sont les idéaux de paix et de prospérité pour tous les Camerounais.
Okay, when we look at the outing of the Minister of Territorial Administration and that of the Minister of Communication, many persons will say it is the right of citizens to go out and manifest and make their voices heard. How does the CPDM appreciate the fact that these persons are being warned by both the Ministers of Territorial Administration and the Minister of Communication?
Le ministre de l'administration territoriale est dans son rôle. Il est le garant de la sécurité dans le territoire. Et par conséquent, il fait une sortie à la suite d'un appel pour certains compatriotes qui, ne voulant pas participer aux élections, le ministre de l'administration territoriale a défini le cadre dans lequel les élections, dès l'appel des collèges électoraux, l'ambiance qui doit régner dans la République, c'est l'ambiance d'un pays qui est à la veille d'une échéance capitale. L'échéance ici, c'est le point d'achèvement de la décentralisation par la mise en place des différents conseils régionaux. Par conséquent, le ministre de l'administration territoriale est sorti pour dire à ceux des compatriotes qui pensent qu'il faille qui veulent interrompre ce processus, il les a appelés à plus de responsabilités pour ne pas entraver le processus qui est en marche, tout en préconisant l'État est régi, en attirant leur attention, l'attention de ceux qui ont pensé qu'ils peuvent faire ombrage au processus de démocratisation que le pays est en train de connaître.
Non, allez, vous chutez pour qu'il vienne. Vous avez chuté?
Oui, parce que, bon, en faisant le geste, ça m'a interrompu.
Non, okay, allez-y, chutez.
Non, c'est... Ok. Donc, pour chuter et dire que le ministre de l'administration territoriale définissait le cadre qui est connu par tout le monde. Les élections doivent avoir lieu dans un environnement serein, responsable de tous les acteurs politiques. Bon, ceux qui se mettront au travers de ce processus les lois de la République existent. Et le ministre de la Communication a réitéré ce que le ministre de l'administration territoriale a dit, mais en d'autres termes, tel que il faut laisser les Camerounais vivre dans la paix.
Okay, Apostle Ambe, the outing of the Minister of Territorial Administration and that of the Minister of Communication, did we see this coming? Were you expecting that they would tell the persons who are planning to march that if you do that, this is a response that will possibly come from the government?
Of course, the Minister of Territorial Administration is the one that, in other words, is the one that takes care of the territory. Secondly, the Minister of Communication is the one that is the spokesperson of the government, and the government cannot remain silent when things like that are coming up. It is their basic and constitutional right to educate the people and to make them understand the position of the government in every matter, because people may react tomorrow and they ask that, what did the government say? Did the government try to stop them? The government, I think, is trying to play the card in such a way that they will not be at the blaming end. They'll be able to justify the fact that we stopped them from going out, but they insisted to violate the warning of the government. I think that's the reason why the Minister of Territorial Administration, who is in charge of the territory, as well as the Minister of Communication, who is the voice or the mouthpiece of the nation, to communicate to the people. They are not just speaking to the political parties going out, they are educating every Cameroonian to understand that these people are about to violate the Constitution. They are trying to stand against it, because why? According to the Constitution, protest is correct, but you are supposed to be given an authorization if you have to carry out any protest. Now they want to carry out a protest without any authorization. Secondly, they are announcing the ousting of the president. The Minister of Communication said, you cannot tell me that you are coming to kick me out of my house and I allow you to walk into my house and kick me out, except I'm a fool. So they are talking about Republican institutions. Now, my challenge or my worry is this. A lot of other political parties have put their hands behind Professor Maurice Kamto, who is the person spearheading this protest or insurrection. These political parties that are putting their hands behind Professor Maurice Kamto, what is the guaranteed security that also they have put in place in order to protect the people who are going to move into the streets? Because the arm of the law and the arm of the military will definitely face the people to counter their actions. So what are the measures put in place to protect the interests of the individuals going out? Or we are also ready to go and sacrifice more souls again into the streets, because the Minister of Territorial Administration is very clear. Is clear on what he said, that they are going to face the arm of the law if they walk out into the streets. Now, I cannot be told that drinking water will poison me and I choose to drink the water. It means I've made a decision to die. It's a personal decision. You have made it to die. So I think if the government comes up to communicate, it's because the government wants to position itself at an end that we call for a warning and we tried stopping them through communications and they refuse to respond to the communique. So I think it wasn't a surprise to me that the Minister of the Territorial Administration had to communicate and that of communication had to speak, because why? They are speaking on the part of the government to sensitize the population that this action is about to go out. If you are foolish in joining the group of persons who are going out, maybe you are operating, because in such an incident there are also the ignorant and the foolish ones. Out of sentiment and emotion, they can join a crowd and go out. Look, for instance, I watched a video of a certain guy who was on social media talking about Cameroon. At a certain level, we could not see him again. We saw him being interviewed that he disappeared. It's to tell us that the government is prepared against anybody who is trying to cause distortion or confusion in the nation. So I think the communique from the Minister of Communication and that of the Minister of Territorial Administration wasn't a surprise to me.
It was not a surprise to you, but how do we understand this? Because consistently, Professor Maurice Kamto will tell you that it is their constitutional rights and that the powers come from the people. If the people decide that we should go to the streets, the government is supposed to respect that, even prescribing a code of the peaceful, patriotic, Republican march. It says that 1, you should wear an anti-COVID-19 mask, 2, take a scarf or neckerchief and a bottle of vinegar of lemon juice in case of tear gas. Soak the scarf or a neckerchief in vinegar or lemon juice, cover your nose and breathe normally. Is this a preparation for a confrontation?
Mr. Leo, Professor Maurice Kamto is somebody whose knowledge so far as the law is concerned is undisputable. It means I cannot dispute the fact that at the level of the law and things that comes to the constitution that is ignorant. He's fully aware. And when you see him giving what people should take along, it means he's fully aware of the consequences. But I think that the stance of the protest is clear. They are not going out for anything. It's not to demand for better roads,
electricity.
It is not that we don't have good buildings. The issue is simple. There has been somebody whom they claim has been dictatorial for 38 years, and what they feel is that that person must leave. But when you look at those who are buying the idea, are those whose political stance and political slogans are clear. I said it here the other day. When you look at, for instance, CPP of Kawala, that is under the umbrella of Stand Up for Cameroon, they are clear. They said no to elections, yes to political transition. And when the back is simple, it's for power to change hands. Because you say political transition means power should change hands. Now, when you're calling on people to go to the street, it's that simple. The consequences are there. I've said it here and I'm still reiterating it. You don't expect the Minister of Communication, who is the spokesman of the government. You don't expect Paul Atanganji that these people should fold their arms and say, okay, Bromasa, come and take which water.
Yeah, but they say, but they have said it very clearly that patriotic and Republican march peacefully.
Mr. Leo, that is language. It's just playing with words. You're just playing with words. In literature, they call it a pun. It's a pun. It's just like you use words as though it's just like I want to kill somebody, you say take his heart out of him. Okay? You don't say kill him, but you cannot take somebody's heart and the person keeps living. Now, you don't say patriotic to do what? To oust the president. That's it now. Because, first of all, it is, to an extent, because Mr. Leo, this topic is a very delicate one. In fact, these developments are very delicate that if one is not tactical with them, one may have some persons who may feel that, okay, you are backing a certain person and you hate a certain person. No. It is very clear. You cannot want to oust a president and you call it patriotism, no matter how bad that president is. You cannot be patriotic by destroying, like the Minister of Communication put it, Republican institutions. Because if they go to Yaoundé, Mr. Liu, it is very true that there are two ways, like Reverend was saying. He cited those that they ousted from power. It came spontaneous. Yes. Okay? Now, if you can oust somebody through a coup d'etat or through an insurrection like what KAMTO'S wants to do, but announcing it, I want to believe that if this thing came as a surprise, most of this heat will not have been known. It is very true that the government of Cameroon has what they call service à renseignement, where they don't joke with. It means that even if KAMTO'S had not announced, they would have known and they would have prepared for them. But you cannot say people will go to the street and you're cautioning them wear your face masks. Are they going to march? No, because it is to me I find
they should hold yes. Vinegar and a host of others.
But when I look at that thing,
but it sounds contradictory.
That's what I'm saying that, Mr. Leo. This is what I'm saying that the word peace and ousting are antonyms and not synonyms. You don't peacefully oust somebody. I cannot stay in my house and come and peacefully take me out of my house. That is why John Mina one time said, if you're fighting with a blind man who does not know how to swim, if you take him close to the river, say he accepts the fight. Okay? Because you cannot tell somebody. I wrote somewhere and I was asking somebody that, okay, you are of this party. If I come and tell that your position I'll be enjoying, because let's be honest, there are a group of persons who have gone to the president of this political party because of the political cap they are wearing. It is very true. Now, you don't expect that you've been enjoying certain advantages and somebody gets up and tells you that, okay, we are coming peacefully, we don't intend to kill, to come and take you out. It has never been done anywhere. We saw what happened to the Celestine Germans, the Michel Dokis. Let us remember what happened to Mancho BBC. Mancho BBC did not kill any person. He merely got up one day and carried a coffin and was moving in the streets of Bamenda. Where is he today? There is no government. Even if it were the KAMTO'S government, there is no government in any country in the world that will fold its arm and wait for people to come and remove the president from power. Good
evening to you, the bosses Thierry, and to you, James Tato. Good evening to you, Godzi, New Kongi, and Collins Banks, Joel Manan, and all of you guys are watching us via social media. We are glad to note that more and more Ike and Marie, good evening to you too. The CPDM, now what is the CPDM doing? You stay Republican, you observe, though we hear that you are also planning behind the scenes to storm the streets should these other persons come out.
Bon, qu'est-ce que le RDPC fait?
Yeah, because if they oust the president of the republic, that's your national chairman, it means that you are out of power.
Bon, ça c'est un fantasme pour le MRC. Je sais pas, les institutions fonctionnent, le pays fonctionne normalement. Le RDPC pour le moment s'occupe de plus important. Le plus important pour nous au sein de notre parti et pour les partis républicains, c'est de préparer les élections du 6 décembre. Les institutions républicaines qui ont la charge de garantir la sécurité et la paix vont s'occuper des hors-la-loi. Hein? Ce n'est pas le RDPC qui s'occupe des hors-la-loi. Le RDPC est un parti politique, il a des échéances. Un parti, c'est conquérir le pouvoir. Et pour le moment, ce qui nous intéresse, c'est aller conquérir les conseils régionaux. Donc, c'est ça qui nous préoccupe pour le moment. Alors, le gouvernement qui a la charge de sécuriser les Camerounais et leurs biens s'occupe de ceux des Camerounais, s'ils en sont des Camerounais, va s'occuper d'eux si il enfreint à la loi. Il est clair que le parti dont vous avez cité tout à l'heure, le MRC je crois, n'a jamais, depuis l'élection présidentielle de 2018, n'a jamais mené une action constructive d'un pays qui doit avancer. Donc, le document que vous aviez lu, la lettre que vous aviez lue, où on dit que non, c'est une marche patriotique. Alors, vous avez déjà vu une marche patriotique où on demande, comme c'est écrit à ces militants, d'aller, de préparer un ensemble de matériel pour se protéger contre X et Y, tout en sachant que cette marche ne sera pas permise, autorisée. Ça veut dire que c'est un affront contre la République.
Yeah, but Mr. Njoh, are you people not also afraid in your camp? Because if your national president is ousted, like the CRM is saying, it means that the CPDM is no longer going to be at the helm, because it is true. You say it with so much confidence that les institutions vont prendre charge. But we also saw in Burkina Faso where Compaoré was so confident, in Egypt where Hosni Mubarak was also very confident. Don't you also, are you not afraid somewhere?
Non, on ne peut pas. On a peur de quoi? Vous aviez peur? La République, c'est vous, c'est moi, c'est...
J'observe, hein.
Non, je dis, vous êtes citoyen. C'est pour ça que je vais... en tant que journaliste, c'est pour ça que je vais vous interpeller, du moins interpeller la technique qui, en fond, là, mettent un président élu et un président d'une association politique sur les images. Ce n'est pas c'est pas un bon indicateur. Hein? En fond d'écran là, vous voyez l'image qui en fond là. Il y a le président de la République à côté d'un président d'association. C'est pas très pédagogique.
C'est pas un parti politique.
C'est une association. Un parti politique est une association. C'est une association.
Non. Cette partie,
donc on ne peut pas
a pour mission de faire partie le président de la République. C'est le message.
Non, je dis il faut enlever. Il faut enlever parce que pour répondre à votre question, personne, vous voyez la clameur qu'il y a dans la République, les appels qu'il y a dans la République. C'est quand même bon. Le parti, il a eu, je crois, son candidat aux élections présidentielles a eu 14%. Mais ils ont eu peur d'aller, pas peur, ils n'ont pas pu constituer les listes pour aller aux élections. Ils ne pouvant pas aller aux élections législatives et municipales, ils ont parlé de boycott. Alors, quels sont les éléments matériels que ces individus-là ont pour ébranler une république. C'est pour vous dire que c'est un fantasme.
Ok.
Où sommes-nous au Mali aujourd'hui? La dernière actualité, les leaders maliens demandent.
Ils étaient aujourd'hui au Ghana avec le président Rollins. Oui.
Bon, c'est donc pour dire que, pour chuter et dire que ce parti n'a pas de matériel. Ce parti ne représente rien.
Okay.
Et le 22, il n'y aura rien. Par conséquent, l'État qui a quand même dont le rôle est de protéger, joue dans du préventif. Il faut prévoir, il faut garantir et appeler les Camerounais à s'occuper, à vaquer à leurs occupations.
Okay, Apostle Ambe, the code of the peaceful, patriotic and Republican marcher, which copies the United Nations Secretary General, President of the AU Commission, the European Union, France, United States, Britain, China, Russia, Israel, Canada, national and international organizations for the defense of human rights, amongst other things, says that they are calling on the marchers never to forget that the fight aims to save the country and not to destroy it. Fifth says that they should film and broadcast any scene of violence targeting people as well as public and private goods. In case of arrest, do not make any statement in the absence of the lawyers, and says that as a reminder, the CRM and Forces of Progress request peacefully the step down of Mr. Paul Biya from power for the following reasons: non-respect of the constitution by the conduct of civil war in the northwest and southwest regions in the context of a crisis which can and must be resolved politically and therefore peacefully. 2. Permanent violation of the right of every Cameroonian citizen to vote and to be elected during periodic genuine elections, ensuring the free expressions of the will of the voters by the systematic refusal of a consensual reform of an iniquitous electoral system. Now, when the CRM and forces say they are calling for the peaceful stepping down of the President of the Republic, how, according to you, should that have been done? Is it calling for him to step down, without which we go to the streets, or we go to the streets and calling for a peaceful stepping down?
First and foremost, it's very difficult for someone to sit in his room and ask the president to go down. It's not your houseboy. It's not your subject that you will sit in your house and call a president to walk out of office. Secondly, this is a president that has ruled for 38 years and doesn't have any plan to leave power. That you are sitting to call him to go out of power. It's a mirage. Secondly, getting into the streets is not a way to oust a president. We've seen in Africa here, if you want to go the way of taking a president out of power, there are two ways. Either you go through a coup d'etat or an unexpected protest. You don't alert the person before time and then you call it peaceful protest. And you are going to ask the president to go out. There are almost about 20 different coup d'etat that have taken place in Africa here. And if I tell you the truth, most of those coup d'etats took the president by surprise. They were not prepared. So if I hear President Maurice Kamto says they are going to walk peacefully in the street, and he tells people to take vinegar against tear gas, I don't know what he gave them against gun. Because the military does not only have tear gas, they have guns. When he claimed to have won the elections here, he didn't face tear gas. As a man who has experience, who has once gone into the streets and saw the repercussions of the government, he was supposed to have been able to prepare now better to go into the street, because he has once had an experience when he earlier went into the street with some of his party members. Guns confronted them, tear gas confronted them, and a host of other things. And then now he's providing security just for tear gas. What has he given them for gun? What has he given them for water that will spread on their body, issue water? What has he given them for grenades that he is asking them to go out? Of course, I'm sure this is not his first time going out. Now, if at all Professor Maurice Kamto really means business and intends to go out as he said, and to ask the president to go out, it is very certain that he should do something stronger than what he's trying to do right now, because I don't see any future in what he's about to engage, because he's just trying to jeopardize the life of innocent citizens of this country. We have known the Cameroonian government. When it comes to cracking down things, they don't take it for granted. They will confront you and bite you and pinch you and crush you when you dare to manipulate or try to take over responsibilities that belong to them. Those communicators that are coming out, they are not for the government, it's for the population to know very well that the government has decided that they are not going to permit this nonsense to happen. It's like drinking poison, expecting someone else to die. That's madness. You drink poison and you expect someone else to die. How do you expect the government to be affected? That he is equipped, well armed, and has professional soldiers. Then you are going to confront the government. You are asking for to take vinegar. Can vinegar defend bullets? Can vinegar stand against grenade? That doesn't make any sense.
Can it stand against physical torture?
So these are the things I'm trying to make people understand.
Yeah, but when they say film and broadcast any scene of violence targeting people as well as public and private goods, how realistic is this?
Who will film it? We're going to film it. Okay, if let's say people use phone and film it, we have other videos in this country that a lot of violence has taken place, and I've sent those videos out. What has happened? We should be able to reflect on the past. There are situations whereby even the military has been implicated. At the end of the day, they still have the Cameroon government to judge them. So even that day something goes wrong and they injure you and there's a video, the international community will still ask Cameroon government to judge the military. And if they choose to judge him and give him 5 days imprisonment, it is a judgment of the government. And a military defending the government cannot be sentenced. They will sentence them on paper and never sentence them in life. Let's be rational for once and be able to know how to handle things. Because if you look, there are 2 coups d'etat taking place in Rwanda. Gregoire Kiyabanda is the first person that was ousted through a coup d'etat. The second person was Jovenel Habyarimana. He was kicked out of coup d'etat. Those are not people that were given prior notice. So anybody who wants to kick out somebody he calls a dictator or somebody who has refused to relinquish power should use the methods that are going to keep the person out. Blaise Compaoré, you said he had confidence. What confidence did he have? He was taken unaware. It's the same thing with Hosni Mubarak. So if at all there was supposed to be any kind of protest in this nation, information should not have even gone out. They were supposed to have done an underground work and then suddenly erupt into the streets. Before the military will start preparing, military have been preparing. I've been walking in this Douala. I see military cars already parked in the streets, waiting for anybody who will raise heads. How dangerous it is. Then they say you're going to do peaceful protest to ask somebody to go out.
Juste pour dire quelque chose. Non, pour dire aux frères que l'armée, notre armée, ou nos forces de défense et de sécurité sont des professionnels. Et la République est une République, la République est impartiale pour nous tous. C'est pour cela que je vais attirer votre attention, et vous le savez certainement, nos forces de défense, quand des brebis galeuses là-dedans commettent des dommages collatéraux, ils sont sanctionnés. Il y a une enquête, et le chef de l'État dernièrement, pour certains de nos compatriotes qui ont été victimes des dommages collatéraux, le chef de l'État a initié une enquête. Et les personnes concernées sont interpellées. Okay. Ce n'est pas seulement théorique, c'est même pratique.
Okay. Janet Annie, good evening to you. Moses Clinton, Pax Pause Zan, good evening to you. Jack Steam Steel Rollins, and to you, Daddy the Boss, and to you, Aluso Claude, good evening to you. Samuel Che, Nde Livinus, good evening to you. Ndembong Ernest and Janet Annie, and to all of you guys watching us. We move over to Boya before we come to you, Prince, to get the reaction of they call him the Kumfor Barrister Situi John Kamini react to this subject.
You see, the population of the Western region, or what they call people who are indigenous suffered a lot. And it is just but very abnormal that in times like this, where within the Southwest and the Northwest regions, these people are considered as aliens, as endangered species. Mr. Maurice Kamto, because of his very personal, selfish, egocentric ambitions, want to create a national hate against the people of the Western region. This is unfortunate because there is a likely probability that if he continues with this very vaulting ambition of his, after losing the elections in 2018, after frustrating some of his supporters and members of his political party who had ambitions to be mayors and parliamentarians, maybe senators, and maybe regional councillors, he comes back in a way to destroy the national polity. It is regrettable, and it is high time we unanimously call on all Cameroonians not to allow Cameroon to be destroyed by whosoever. On no account can you build a revolution on an individual's ambition. A revolution can never be by calling people to remove a democratically legal and legitimately elected head of state. It could be spontaneous where something occurs that has an overbearing weight on the entire population. But I fear the heart of those who really stand behind these perpetrators of atrocity, revenge for losing an election, and also frustrated by some of their friends of yesterday that they didn't meet their ambitions. That notwithstanding, the state should be steadfast. The state should be strong. The state has the duty to protect its people. The state has the duty to fulfill its responsibility towards the people by guaranteeing that the country is in peace and security, and the state has the responsibility to ensure national cohesion. It is therefore.
Okay, that was Kumfo Barrister Sitri John Kamini reacting to the call by Professor Maurice Kamto for a popular uprising to oust President Paul Biya peacefully. Now, he raised the issue of a revolution. Apostle Ambe equally talked about it, that these things are spontaneous and not planned. And we hear consistently people say that it is their right to manifest, but is that not where the problem is? You plan the ousting of a president, and then this is done by someone who went for presidential elections and lost, and nothing actually that ignites the need for the ousting of the president.
Sure, Mr. Leo, I think the problem is not the fact that I went for presidential elections and lost. That is not the ball of contention, because if you look at the reasons he's advancing, to an extent he's talking about the fact that
the Anglophone crisis.
I'm coming here, the Anglophone crisis, and he talks about the electoral code too. And he feels that if it's just a ballot box, the president cannot be ousted. Those are his reasons, which means that he's also looking at the fact that he failed in 2018 because the ballot box could not give him the opportunity which he feels he won. Don't forget that since 2018, militants of his party call him le président élu, which means they believe he won the elections, and that's one of the reasons. But my problem in everything is the fact that if you look at what he was saying, the man in Boya, a revolution is an act that has as objective to change political, economy, and social everything. But when you look at what Professor Maurice Kamto intends doing, when I look at the weaknesses on my own part, is that most revolutions did not actually come like that. There were things that were spontaneous. It's not something that people sat, strategize, held meetings like what we are seeing today. You see people with social media, Modena met come to, they agreed. The next day they met with PAP, they agreed. The next day they met with Kawala, they agreed. The next day you see Fundi reacting that he wrote me a letter. So in all it, Mr. Lu, there's a day I said here that when you take a very easy example, in Julius Caesar, the only reason that makes Brutus and Cassius to lose the war against a young guy called Antony, or rather that should be Antony and Cleopatra. The fact that they lose, no, Julius Caesar, the fact that they lose the war is simple. Because Brutus says, or Cassius tells Brutus, let us stay and wait for Antony to come and attack us. By so doing, we would have strategized. Because what Kamto is doing, to me, I feel that, because read what communication minister is saying. Rene Emmanuel Sadi did not in any way say anywhere that they are coming to oust the president. If you read his communique well, he has not called Bia's name.
It says the Cameroon government has been appraised of course for an uprising and overthrow of its republican institutions.
Correct.
By the leaders of a political party.
Republican institutions from starting, and he did not call Bia. But when you go to what the CRM says and the others, it is clear and simple to oust the president. Now when you keep coming now, holding meetings and bringing out communiques, it is made clear that you have an agenda. And because you have an agenda, you are already exposing your weaknesses to your opponent. And it makes you to an extent weaker in front of your opponent. Because in this case, the opponent of the CRM man is President Paul Biya, or let me put it as Rene Emmanuel Sadi says, the institutions, Republican institutions. But it is not the best way. I would have preferred, Mr. Leo, in this country, if a student who is caught cheating in a back exams goes to prison, it tells you that here, things are not taken that way. If people can be sentenced to life imprisonment, like they did to the Sisikos, because they get to a court and they maintain their stance on something to an extent that could be constitutional. What about an individual who has run for elections, who gets up and says, I want to change? Mr. Liu, I'm saying this and I'm repeating it, that somebody somewhere listening to Prince should not misjudge me. Because what is ongoing now? Maurice Kamto went in for presidential elections. The opportunity was given him for municipal and legislative elections. We saw his militants. I have people who are compiled, and it was at the last minute that he did not go. As we speak, all militants of the CRM communication have been withdrawn from all platforms. They do not talk. It means that it is a kind of strategy that they are putting on. And when you are putting on this strategy, there is no government and there is no individual that will ever sit and wait for you to come and take away its power. It is but normal that the CRM has its reasons that they've cited that they want to oust the president. I don't know, I don't belong to the internal structure of the party. They may have their strategies, which means maybe by also talking too much, they also want the government to talk too much. Because forget not that, since they started talking and what they have been doing, it has cost to the government. We have seen a lot of talking to on the part of the government. In less than a week, we have seen communiques from 2 top officials of the government. We have seen even communiques from, I want to say, the strongest of governors, though there's no governor that is stronger than another, But you will not want to put, for instance, the governor of the economic heartbeat of Douala and that of the center, or maybe that of the West. So they too have already taken their stance. It goes to tell you that
the SDO for Mezam too.
The SDO for Mezam, and it goes to tell, and look at what the generals of the Northwest did. It goes to tell you that there is something that is cooking, and the strategy of the CRM. If I were to be a militant of that party, I've told those friends who are there, who have written them inbox. To me, I feel that the strategy put forward by Professor Maurice Kamto, he's a strategist. He may be working something different, but it's not too good, because this government, the Bias regime, is fully aware that Professor Maurice Kamto, who has worked with them, forget not that when there was a strike action in 2008, Maurice Kamto was with the government. So the regime is fully aware that as we are calculating, he is also calculating us. So it's a kind of a match that you go for alley and they beat you. When you're going for return, you're going fully.
Which is the question I'm asking you, Mr. Njoh. You sounded so confident earlier on. Don't you think that you may be calculating, or the government may be calculating, Professor Maurice Kamto for the 22nd of September through a peaceful protest, when he himself has a plan B to take you guys by surprise, or to take yes, your national president by surprise? Maybe he has other things that are unseen to us now.
Je ne suis pas porte-parole du gouvernement, mais dans le cadre de mon parti et en qualité de citoyen que je suis, les agissements ou le comportement de M. Kamto ne nous surprend guère, compte tenu du fait que depuis la présidentielle, parce qu'il faut toujours rentrer à la présidentielle, il a chaque fois appelé à l'insurrection. C'est pas aujourd'hui. Aujourd'hui, il a sorti le mot insurrection, du moins d'une manière ou d'une autre dans ses propos ou dans les propos de ses communicants. Mais au soir des élections du 7 octobre, avant les résultats, il avait proclamé déjà avoir été le vainqueur. Seulement cela laisse entrevoir, ou a laissé entrevoir, ce que va être l'avenir avec ce parti. Et les instances dirigeantes de notre pays ne sont pas surpris, parce qu'il est allé d'événement malheureux en événement malheureux. Alors, vous avez lu tout à l'heure les ampliations. Apparemment, il en a fait à l'ONU, ainsi de suite. Le code pénal, dont il a été l'un des initiateurs, condamne son appel à l'insurrection. Ces instances-là, qui régulent d'une manière ou d'une autre la démocratie par le monde, est-ce que lui, en sa qualité, ça donne du crédit à sa lettre? Un parti politique qui va céder au pouvoir par l'insurrection, c'est de la bêtise. Donc, c'est donc pour dire que nous, au sein du RDPC, tout ce qui se passe aujourd'hui n'est que une suite logique dans l'entreprise macabre de ce monsieur, qui est certainement redevable à certaines personnes qui l'ont accompagné avec l'espoir que par la fibre ethnique, il pourra accéder au pouvoir, justement, pour vendre le Cameroun. Malheureusement, les citoyens camerounais n'étant plus des personnes qu'on puisse infantiliser, il a perdu l'élection par la sagesse des citoyens. Qu'est-ce qu'il veut? Le va-tout. Mais le va-tout, c'est juste, c'est de la gesticulation.
Mais il dit que les élections ont été truquées. Hein.
Jusqu'à présent, on attend ces PV, hein, à l'ONU, pas très loin, là où il a été. Et pas à l'ONU, à l'UA.
Oui.
Les PV sont attendus. Il avait pour un mois pour les apporter. Il y a longtemps que mois sont passés. Donc, pour dire que un président qui a été élu à 71%, le Cameroun, c'est le Cameroun, quelqu'un l'avait dit. Le Cameroun, ce n'est pas le Mali. Ce n'est pas où on peut renverser les institutions qui ont été légitimement établies par la souveraineté nationale. Ce n'est pas le cas avec le Cameroun.
Apostle Ambe, I'm asking whether maybe Professor Maurice Kamto may have a plan B. We may be calculating him from one angle, and then it turns out to show his real agenda, because many persons are still not aware of what could be behind this plan. But is this confidence that is being expressed by militants of the CPDM party and maybe the government, not because after the electoral hold-up campaign, seemingly there was no plan B, and then there was this manifestation that led him to prison, where we still have one of his vice presidents still in prison in the person of Mamadou Mota, and seemingly nothing is happening. Is this like he says, also giving the government so much confidence that we already know how Professor Maurice Kamto behaves?
Well, no politician is predictable. I cannot guarantee the fact that Maurice Kamto does not have another agenda.
A plan B. A
plan B. We are not in a circle of leadership, so we cannot detect. We are talking shallowly from the point of view we see. Most of the times we judge things based on what we see. We don't judge things based on what people do. Because Maurice Kamto's refusal to go in for legislative and municipal elections took everyone by storm. That was something that we least expected. And it was very close when everything was already in motion that he suddenly from nowhere refused to go in for legislative election. So if at all he's announcing a peaceful protest to ask President Pobia, and we are looking up to what he has said, it's also very, very delicate that as a politician whom we know they are very unpredictable, he could have a plan B or plan C or even plan D. That is something we do not yet know. One of the things I just have to make people understand is that when it comes to the field of politics, there are not permanent friends and not permanent enemies. There is nobody who is predictable in the field of politics. There are friends today, tomorrow they are enemies. We've seen people cross carpet and change their minds. I don't want to go into the details or entering into Professor Maurice Kamto's privacy or based on what they are planning within their circle of leadership, because I'm totally blank about it. But they used to say it is too much confidence that make crab not to have head. The crab does not have a head. It's too much confidence. This idea of CPDM members of the government thinking that what happened in the 2018 elections, there was nothing that came after that was serious and they relaxed. I want to say once bitten, twice shy. Every method should be put in place to accommodate any insurrection. We shouldn't take anybody for granted. Because if you hear a bird dancing by the roadside, there must be somebody in the bush playing the drum. The boldness and confidence of Professor Maurice Kamto speaks volumes. We should not take it for granted. And we should not minimize the fact that he says he's going to carry out an insurrection. I'm sure Maurice Kamto understands both national and international law. Maurice Kamto is well read and well exposed, and he understands the implication, and he's not a child still tying diapers that he doesn't know what he's doing. He understands the implication of every action he's about to take. What I'm just saying is, to a person like Professor Maurice Kamto, I have no challenge. My problem is the masses who are following him, because I've not seen the guarantee of their security he's asking them to go out. I don't want to stand against his idea of insurrection, because I belong to Maurice Kamto, no, I belong to the government. I'm an opinion leader. I'm just contributing as a Cameroonian to what is happening in our country. But one thing I must say is, never minimize your enemy at any given time in life, because they can take you by storm.
Let me take some messages. Leo, Mr. Leo, thank you for the program, and your dear panelists, superb and frank intervention. He who has ears, let him hear. Selfish politicians, friends, sell your vision to not take advantage. Minatu Aejo replied, one of the opportunists today who has crying more than the family. Kamto is not the only strategist in Cameroon. If he was, his friends wouldn't have left him shortly after the presidential elections. Anyway, Only KAMTO knows weighty, it define am. You share them, you true them. Time will tell. Emma is writing from Boya. Good evening to you. Hi to everyone in the studio. Maurice KAMTO should stop bothering himself because nothing can change. Fon Julius writing from Bamenda. Good things to all our panelists on the prestigious Prime Hour. I am completely okay with Apostle Ambe with all the admiration I have for Professor Maurice KAMTO. I will equally say to lead a transition here, he should do like what happens in other countries. Peaceful protests can hardly bring a change in this country. This one says, good evening, Mr. Leo. I believe that surely Prof. KAMTO has a plan B in place, so let's just wait and see what happens on that day. It's Godi Nyukoni writing from the Middle East. Good evening to you, Godi. Okay. Oops. Okay. This one says, good evening, Mr. Leo. It's Desmond Kum from Bamenda. To me, we ought to leave KAMTO and the MRC militants go in for what they want. They have all the reasons to do so. Others should stop killing the morals of this eager for change. Let's take a little analogy of the Anglophone separatists with rudimentary weapons who are ready to face the military, well equipped with all sophisticated weapons. Okay. This one says, good evening, studio. KAMTO's plans may be higher than government. Alem Oliver is writing from Kumba. This one says, good evening, please ask the CPD man to speak in English. Asa Martin writing from Mutengene. Okay, Cameroon is bilingual. KAMTO is not fighting for Cameroonians. He's fighting for his interests. He is just out to revenge. He was once a member of that very government. We should be very careful. The patriotic leader is not yet out. Suraju Muhammadu writing from Bamenda. This one says, how can you call a political party an association? Good evening, Mr. Liu and panelists. There is a misconception that I wish to make an input. Patriotism is for a country and not for an individual. If the president of a country is not meeting the aspirations of the people who voted him to power, they have the right to go to the streets to ask him to step down and put someone else who will lead them where they want to go, and that is patriotism. And Noko is writing from Bamenda. Good things, my big brothers. You guys should stop discouraging those who want to go out. Okay. This one says BIT. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Everyone wants a reason to leave, but until you find a reason good enough for you to die, you only live on purpose. Luigi is writing from Limbe. Many messages. We have to move on to our next talking point after the short break. Welcome back. You're watching Prime Hour on my media Prime. Good evening to you, Intong Ivo, my very good friend and brother. watching us from Boya. We this time around are going to be talking about how well has the civil servants served Cameroonians, and I'll start with you, Apostle Ambe. The whole notion of a civil servant in Cameroon. When we talk of civil service, what comes to your mind?
Well, when we talk of civil service in Cameroon, we're talking about people who have sacrificed more than what is being given to them to serve the nation.
Mm-hmm.
Civil servants are most of the time the sacrificial lambs that build a nation at their own cost. Because if you look at the standard of living of civil servants in our country, it doesn't meet up the sacrifices they put in for the nation. So I first of all want to salute everyone that has once served in the civil service, that your work will not be rewarded by the nation. They can give you medals tomorrow. I've seen a lot of civil servants who after leaving work, they get very frustrated. And we are encouraging a lot of people who are in the civil service right now to understand that your salary is a means to an end. It's not an end by itself. And you should also encourage the ability to develop your personal income by engaging into entrepreneurship and also involve into agriculture. Because if you look at the standard of living of most civil servants in our nation, Cameroon, we will only say they served because it was like that was the only way out. We know of many civil servants in Cameroon who worked for many years, say 35, 40 years, and they barely have houses to stay in. Others are unable to school or sponsor their children. Others are unable to even take care of their health. And so bad it is that sometimes when they even go on pension, to recover their pension money is talk of war. They start running from one office to another. I'm talking as a pastor who's come across a lot of civil servants in Cameroon, a teacher, a registrar, and all other persons in ministries that work. You will discover that most of them are very desperate. And the system is so tight in such a way that almost every civil servant is forced to carry out acts of corruption. It will be difficult for you to see a sincere civil servant, not because they want to corrupt, but because the circumstances they find themselves, it's very difficult for them not to live in corruption. So I think when we are talking about civil servants, we are talking about the people who bury their lives for the well-being. And I also know many civil servants also, when they enter into the civil service, they looked at their standard of living, decided to collect their salary or their grow low and travel out of the country to go for greener pastures. Because why? It's very, very difficult and frustrating when you are rendering some services that are not even equal to the salary that's being given back to you. Recently, Alassane Dramane Ouattara raised the salary of primary school teachers in Cote d'Ivoire to 320,000, while that of secondary school rose to 512,000. In a country like Rwanda, a country that's not compared to Cameroon, whereas doctors are paid 3 times the salary of Cameroonian doctors. A medical doctor leaves queues and comes out with 250,000 francs. How much will you pay your house, sponsor your children, and cater for yourself? So I think the civil servants in Cameroon, kudos to you for your sacrifices, and I never intended being one.
Now, when we are talking about civil servants, do they play the role of servants or positioning themselves as persons who are supposed to be served? That is, the public pays them for their services.
Mr. Leo, to me, my own definition, I think that a civil servant is somebody who has a matricule number. Mm-hmm. Simply put, it's somebody who has a matricule number. It means it's not somebody who is in the private sector and needs to come meet the boss and the kinds of francs. No, it's somebody who maybe goes to the bank to take a salary. To your question, civil servants in Cameroon, I think that we rather serve them instead of them serving people. The reason is because in most offices, I'll give you a very simple example. You go, for instance, where they do identification papers. Maybe you need a passport, you need an ID card. If you want yours to come out fast, if you want the services to be faster, it is true there is a tariff there until they even write numbers that, okay, if the person you're meeting doesn't want to work with, call this number. But if you want your services to be given fast, there is a way they do it. In simple terms, they call it AD, A2, A2. Because when the president appoints you, he says, Article 1, this person has been appointed to this position. Article A2, the person is entitled to all advantages to this position. It means that indirectly, when you look at that statement, it means that indirectly it's like empowering the person, okay, but not the other way around, like illegally. But now in our country, Mr. Leo, I know that bail is free, but we pay. It's paid for. Huh?
What?
It's normally they pay for. So we even ID card, you want to do ID card, they say haven't compiled all your documents, you need to give a sum of 2,800. I know people have done ID card for 18,000, 20,000, 25,000 after they've compiled all their documents. So in Cameroon, it is a bit difficult for civil servants to stay, like Apostle put it. I think one reason that is pushing them, Mr. Leo, is the fact that their salaries to an extent is very meager. I'll take the case of a primary school teacher who is appointed, for instance, or is sent to a village that has just 2 classrooms, and the people are not too much interested in education and they do just agriculture. I know primary school teachers that parents pay school fees. They come and pay school fees with a bucket of cocoyam. How does that teacher survive? Lately, I had a teacher in somewhere around Mongo actually embezzled all money that was meant to register children for the first school living certificate. That's precisely in Yato. Yeah, Yato. Yeah, in Yato. So the issue is, if the teacher had, like Apostle put it, look at the primary school teacher, the salary of a primary school teacher, for instance, in Côte d'Ivoire. If you look at what teachers in the primary school, I told a friend of mine, it's not like boasting, I don't have anything, yes, but you pay me 2 million, I'll never teach in a primary school. I mean, every month. Because when I look at what is put in, these are people who prepare lesson notes every day, and you need to go to school from 7 a.m. and at times to close at 5 p.m. for a salary that is not up to 200,000 francs, Mr. Leo. Whereas somebody stands by the roadside and just makes peep and you pack, and at the end of the day he has so much money. So to an extent, these people are making us to serve them because what they take home is not commensurate to the energy they give in. For instance, another example, let's even come even to the private sector too. It's not safe. You take a driver, for instance, that the boss has put in maybe on a salary of 70,000 francs. I was discussing with the guy who has his own small taxi. Now he says, with this it's okay. That he was driving a 70-seater and he had 70,000 francs as a salary, and he needs to go to Yaoundé 3 times a week. You don't expect that man, it's been normal that the man will overload in order to meet up. So the ball game at the end is that, Mr. Leo, it's the condition, it's a relationship between the employer and the employee that is causing civil servants to go at times against the norms of their job. But the $1 million question is, what about those who are still paid well? Let's take cases of magistrates, for instance. These are people earn thousands of money, but as you go there, you're even within.
I don't know whether you know the real salaries of magistrates. You say
their salary is very heavy.
Okay. You're a journalist. I would
very
like
heavy.
I'll
give it to you at the end of the program.
Okay, Mr. Njoh, when you look at civil servants in Cameroon, Apostle says they are not well paid. He equally says they are not well paid, and that justifies why they do what they do. But let's take the case of a teacher. Before going into ENS, probably you already know what you are going to earn. Before going to ENAM, you already know. So nobody forced you into it, and you come out to justify that you either are stealing or you are corrupt because you are not well paid. You knew that that was the amount that was going to be paid to you.
Bon, ce que je vais dire là, sur la question, le service public n'est pas, comme autrement ce que l'on dit souvent, un sacerdoce. C'est une activité comme toute autre activité qui doit servir l'homme qui l'exerce et mettre cet homme dans les conditions qui lui permettent de s'épanouir suffisamment. Alors, le service public, vous l'avez si bien dit, à partir du moment où on s'y intéresse parce qu'il y a des concours, il y a des recrutements spéciaux et tout. On sait quel est le salaire d'un enseignant, par exemple, qui sort de l'école normale en début de fonction. Et plus tard, par rapport à ses avancements, à son grade et tout, son salaire sera conséquent. Mais je vais être un peu prudent. Parce que quand vous faites... le thème est global.
Oui.
Et vous savez, le service public, s'il est question du service public, a des corporations. Et chaque corporation a certainement ses avantages et ses inconvénients. Quand je dis avantage ici, c'est dans le sens légal. Le salaire d'un enseignant de lycée ou celui de la oui, ne sont pas pareils. C'est parce que chacun a un niveau requis et en fonction de ce niveau requis, il a une position dans la catégorisation des échelles de la fonction publique. Mais il est question ici pour chacun qui accepte d'y aller tout en sachant ce qu'il va recevoir, mais sans toutefois croiser les bras. Parce que vous savez, quand on est déjà dans une profession, on cherche à l'améliorer. Le pays, le Cameroun, nous ne pouvons pas faire table rase sur la question. Le Cameroun a quand même traversé de multiples crises financières qui ont perturbé les salaires dans la fonction publique de façon générale. Et à arriver à la qualité des salaires qu'on a aujourd'hui à la fonction publique, après les réajustements qu'on a connus, il faut s'en féliciter. J'ai vu, vous avez pris des exemples tout à l'heure. Je ne sais pas quel est les effectifs dans ces fonctions publiques, de ces pays-là, par rapport aux nôtres. Et je ne sais pas quelle est la dose véritable sur laquelle est adossé les paiements de ces salaires dans ces pays. Vous savez qu'aujourd'hui, le Cameroun supporte des sommes d'investissement, la masse salariale, les investissements publics, il y a les grands travaux, ainsi de suite, qui se font sans interruption. Ça veut quand même dire que le pays, quelque part, est sur la bonne balance, sur le bon côté de son évolution. Donc, si je reviens, on n'est jamais satisfait de ce qu'on gagne. On voudrait tout permanemment améliorer ses conditions. Moi qui vous parle, je suis fonctionnaire. Quand j'y allais, je savais ce que je vais toucher. C'est pas pour autant que je reste bras croisés. J'appelle à mes employeurs ou à mon employeur, chaque fois il faut améliorer les conditions de travail, il faut améliorer les salaires. Mais cela va également des dispositions que le pays a sur sa main.
Okay, Apostle Ambe, now civil servants and the spirit of work, is it the fact that they are not well paid that they will not stay in their respective offices for the number of hours required? They will not be so efficient in serving people, or is the lack of a mechanism that strictly supervises what they are supposed to do?
I think it's bad mechanism in supervision. Most of the civil services in our country today, their services rendered are very, very poor. Very, very poor, because I don't think the authorities in those respective departments go around to cross-check what their workers do. For instance, the newly appointed Minister of Health, Manauda Malashi, came to Douala to the hospital, only to realize that the nurses and the servants and the workers there could not even welcome him. The woman that came and stood at the entrance of Lankantini died at the entrance because the nurses could not give attention to that person. He left and traveled to Iboloa, to the hospital, to go and check, only for him to realize that everything was in a haphazard manner. I think because they know they have a magical number that gives them access to the bank at the end of the month. Whether they work or they don't work, nobody is there to verify them. I can tell you that there are many ghost workers in this country. And there are people living out of this country collecting salary in this country. If the mechanism of supervision was effective, then all those who live out of the country and they are collecting salary as civil servants were supposed to have been checked. That's one of the things. It tells us that people are not properly supervised or investigations are not carried out. The same goes with projects in the country. People will tell they are constructing something here, and the people go there, they don't do anything, but there's nobody to cross-check it. It still falls back to the civil service. There are a lot of projects in this country that have been abandoned somewhere and the money has been swindled and embezzled. But because there was nobody to cross-check, it allows everything go like that. Teachers don't come to school sometimes. They stay in their houses. But because there is no inspector that goes around to check activities in the school. I own a primary school. The inspector only comes there, wants to check, and you put in envelope. Once they come there and check and they go. So it's telling you that they are not there to cross-check the work done. They are there to see how they can be able to collect their money and put in their pocket. Now, because of the level of laziness and lousiness of the civil servants, we cannot have competent activities coming from the civil service sector. That's the reason why the private sector that has people that man over institutions and carry out detailed investigations of work, they are producing more results than those in the civil service. Take for instance, in this Cameroon, we have the best results from mission school and private schools. Why? Because those mission school and private schools are being manned by individuals who make sure that they cross-check the activities and the work of individuals. Today we have had the highest crimes of children piercing others with knife in government schools, in lycée. The children will kill another one in school. Children take tramadol. It's to tell you that supervision is not properly carried out in such institutions. There are some schools where the principal attends school once in a week. There is no boss to verify him, nobody to check him. There are police commissioners and divisional officers that do not go through the street to check how police people operate. A man can carry a human head and his passing as long as he gives 500 francs, he's going ahead. There is no check. Why? Because the salary given to the person cannot even meet up his demands. He is forced to stretch his hand and collect. So I think poor supervision is number one reason why the civil service is not effective. Secondly, the amount of salary, the money given to them doesn't even encourage you. In business or in work, there's something called motivation. Civil servants are not motivated. They are the only people that if you can work for 10 hours, they will still pay you the same salary for 8 hours. They don't work overtime for civil service. If you go to work, they pay you. You don't go to work, they don't pay you. But with the private sector, if you work 8 hours and add 2 hours, they will pay you overtime. So it pushes people to give out their best. So I think that lack of proper supervision and bad salary or pay package is one of the reasons why most of the civil service in the country, they are very, very poor in rendering services. The third thing is that they don't even have manners. You enter into a government bureau, they are from Friday or Thursday, some civil servants go for weekend. You catch them only on Monday again. You go to with documents in the office, he's not there. The DA is not there on Thursday, he's not there on Friday, he's not there on Saturday. And SJO will leave somewhere like Southwest and come to Yaoundé from Thursday, come back on Monday, sign 2 documents by Tuesday, he leaves again. Because there's nobody to verify and to check him. So he lives his life as he likes. So one of the poorest sectors in the nation is the civil service.
Okay, civil service. Cameroon wants to emerge by 2035, and that will require a lot of creativity, ingenuity. We know that the policies of this nation is driven by the civil service. I want you, Prince Joel, to tell me how creative, how ingenious our civil service is, because I spoke with 3 persons before this program. They told me that most persons working in our civil service behave like they are robotized. That is, everything is with high instructions from somewhere. That is, you are just there. When you receive high instructions, you act.
Sure, Mr. Leo, the people who told you, I believe that they were speaking from experience, what they've gathered. You know, what we actually have in Cameroon is we have people who are trained to toe the line. And that is why our civil service has failed to a greater extent, because it's not creative. You will be shocked that schools that perform at times the best in overall exams are private, they're not government schools.
Of course.
And these are not people who may necessarily come from ENS. And you will also agree with me that a majority of companies that have succeeded and are succeeding are companies that are owned by individuals and not companies that are owned by the state, whereby the state has an environment or a school where it brings out people that they go out and work. So it is a kind of a situation, because we have people who have been trained, given a kind of, because what they do, actually the educational system we have is the arches of colonialism. So you have people who have a mindset of just doing something. Where they get hooked, they don't think that they could do it the other way. It's just, this is how I was taught. And if this is what they taught us in school, this is what we should do. So I think that, Mr. Leo, creativity in the public service, I don't think it actually exists. You hardly will you see a civil servant coming out of the box. It is working within what they were trained in school.
Of course.
Okay? The way, for instance, a divisional officer of maybe say Douala here behaves will almost be the same with the one who is in Ambe or in Akoya behaves. Why? Because they come from a school called Enam. They have ethics and deontology that they must do. But I believe that when you're in the field, there are certain things that you meet up with, because you do not treat, for instance, people who are in a remote area with people who are in the urban area. There are two different people. So creativity in our service is very lacking, Mr. Leo. There is something that a friend of mine kept somewhere, and I forwarded it to another WhatsApp group, and a guy from our teachers training argued strongly that that is not a question, because he says for something to be a question, what they told them in school must be this. So we are failing because we have norms that we must follow. But I believe that in our own profession, we come from, Mr. Leo, they always tell you in school, Prince, the journalism they teach you in school, when you go to the field, there are certain realities you're going to embrace. It is true you may go, okay, let's say there is shooting on there is what is ongoing on the 22, and you're going out for coverage. You don't need, it is true you must deliver the story and you must respect deadline. So if you hear a gunshot, you stay there because your boss is expecting the story. It's no way. So I believe that the level of creativity, Mr. Leo, our civil service has failed. And a majority of those who have entered the public service and have want to show off have ended up being very quiet. A case in point is Ephraim Inoni. Let us look at Operation Sparrowhawk. People used to open their offices, and before you come, if you come at 8, you come at midnight, another lock when he was PM. Look at what Malauda Malachi was doing. This is someone who gets into the office, because what our ministers in Cameroon do is, if he's coming to Yaoundé on Monday, he announces 1 week later, and the convoy itself. But this is a minister of public health who goes into a hospital, and because the doctors in Cameroon know that, according to the ethics, you need to first of all go and buy a carnet and consult, and even if you're dying, they say, va consulter d'abord. Now the man comes and they treat him the same. And it's the same situation he had in the north, which means that if he did in just 2, if he did in more than 10, you would have noticed that it is seemingly the same situation all over. So what becomes the problem? You discover that it is an issue of the training, the mindset. And at times, Mr. Leo, these things happen because some people are very big people. Let me give you an anecdote just for 2 seconds. I know of a young police officer who was controlling traffic around Bonaberi. This guy stops a lady who parks her car in front of the road, and he's on phone, and the guy is like, "You're disturbing traffic," and the lady says, "Let go." Why? Because at times when even those who want to do their job are tied up because there is somebody somewhere who will report him to the boss. Let me tell you, the next day that guy was sent to Yabasi and is there for 5 years. So it tells you that there are those who may even want to be creative, but Since Cameroon is a country of connection, je connais monsieur Leo, si tu tentes là, je vais faire un appel et vous allez voir ce qu'il va faire.
Good evening, Mr. Leo, and the panel. This is Madame Njoh, Apostle Ambe. You can say it again. I'm a victim. I started with a sum of 30,000 francs as salary. It's terrible. Sometimes you are forced to collect 25 francs each from the people just to buy gari and sugar to drink with their children in the house. Mr. Liu, please, you people should raise your voice on our behalf. Teachers are suffering. There are teachers who have been working for 20 years without promotion, no any form of encouragement, but younger teachers with money and connection use it to buy positions. Bad government. Kudos to Apostle Ambe for saying the stress of teachers. Teachers live from hand to mouth in Cameroon. A special edition for teachers is coming up next week. Good evening, Mr. Liu and all the members of the panel. I really like the debate on civil service. I wish to correct Mr. Joel that magistrates do not have a heavy pay package. A magistrate live in Ambe. Yes, I'm talking to because I spoke with a magistrate yesterday. A magistrate lives in Ambe with index 530 and earns less than 250,000 francs. What magistrates once enjoyed was a monument, but it is no longer regular. Even when regular, it is now very small. Oben Wilson, writing from Boya. Thank you for that. Okay, this one. Civil servants face some difficulties, but I prefer working in civil service in Cameroon because the job have guarantee more than private sectors where they can sack at any time because there is a lot of graduates out there, and also tribalism. Usaini Buba, writing from Boya. Greetings, Mr. Kum, and to you all in the house, and a special greetings to Mr. Joel and Apostle. Your program today is good. Can't participate because I'm in Algeria. Now, keep on. Mohammed, writing from Algeria. Good evening to you, Mohammed. Charles Embola, who is one of our panelists here, writing from Boya. Good evening to you. He says civil servants are not there to make money, but to serve the basics to the common man. The private sector is that area meant to make money. No wonder civil servants are richer than businessmen and women in this country. Another aspect is the lack of creativity by state workers. They make everything look so Herculean, always in a bid to extort money from the common man. If everyone does his or her job properly, we won't have issues using the public offices. Charles Embola in Boya, good evening to you. This one says, greetings, sir. Civil servants are doing their best, just that their needs is more than their wants. All we need patriotic Cameroonians. Let love lead. Agendia Sylvester is writing from Yaoundé. Hello, my beautiful family. Chenui Waters, writing from Gabon. Please want to thank all of you for the way you people talk in the house. I'm very happy, especially the brother with the red cap. Okay, I don't know. Hello, Mr. Liu. Thank you for the wonderful work you are doing, and greetings to all the panelists. Please let the panelists broaden their analysis to other sectors of the public service like military, custom, magistrates, etc., rather than focusing only on teachers. Teachers, the only civil servants, they are afraid to analyze other sectors. Now, Mr. Njoh, we had a video that made rounds today on social media, yesterday and today, from the Archbishop of the Douala Metropolitan Archdiocese, who says that civil servants are forced to belong to one party, and that may also have an impact on the way they work, their output, because seemingly you people are forced to belong to the CPDM party. You are a militant of the CPDM party, you are a civil servant. Were you forced to join the CPDM party, or are you doing it because you want to be promoted?
Non. Si, enfin, la question me concerne, oui. D'abord. Je fais la politique avant que je ne sois fonctionnaire. Okay. J'ai commencé la politique, j'étais élève au lycée du Ngwa en Konsamba, 88. je fais la politique par conviction. Maintenant, le champ politique est un champ d'opportunité quand on entre dans la politique, parce que l'objectif en politique, beaucoup plus l'objectif d'un parti politique, c'est d'accéder au pouvoir. Et quand le parti accède au pouvoir, il accède au pouvoir avec ses membres. Ça, on ne peut pas nier cela. Mais je fais la politique pas parce qu'aujourd'hui, il faut que je puisse, si j'ai ça, je ne vais pas refuser. Mais
pour des non-ministres,
chacun, même vous pouvez être nommé ministre. Nous, tous les citoyens peuvent être nommés.
Mais préférence pour ceux qui sont dans le parti au pouvoir.
Mon n'est pas du parti au pouvoir. Donc, bon, je vais essayer d'embrayer ce que les co-panélistes ont dit au sujet. Le service public, c'est dit qu'il n'est pas effectif. C'est un peu comme une insulte sur vous-même, qui êtes sur le plateau. C'est un peu dire comme que ceux qui ont travaillé dans les hôpitaux pendant que la pandémie sévissait n'ont rien fait. Il y a quand même des cas d'exemple. Dit que les enseignants, je peux comprendre qu'une corporation se plaigne des conditions de travail. Nous tous, on a besoin d'avoir beaucoup plus que ce qu'on a aujourd'hui. Mais dit que l'effectivité n'existe pas, je peux dire que c'est un tout petit peu exagéré, mais je peux vous comprendre, parce qu'en qualité de citoyen, quand j'entends votre discours, vous êtes déjà un républicain, un citoyen qui veut que les choses s'améliorent et que le Cameroun, pour tout le monde, se porte bien. Alors, je peux être d'accord, mais je vous souhaiterais, je vais nuancer un tout petit peu votre discours. Aujourd'hui, on peut constater de plus en plus que les ministres sont sur le terrain. Ils font partie du service public parce qu'ils sont à la tête de la gestion du service public. Oui. Le ministre Manaouda, quand il va dans les hôpitaux sans que les responsables l'attendent, qu'il est suprême, c'est pour aller toucher du doigt ce que vous êtes en train de décrire, ce que lui ont été rapportés les citoyens. Quand le ministre Nalova Yonga descend dans les établissements,
après qu'on a tué les enfants, comme ce qui s'est passé au Daïdo.
Non, pas seulement. Pas seulement. Il y a des descentes inopinées que les chefs de département ministériels font. À la fonction publique, le Joseph Anderselo et tout, ils font des descentes.
Il a signalé tout à l'heure que c'est pour prendre les enveloppes.
Non, justement, c'est pour... S'il a la preuve que le ministre descend prendre les enveloppes, bon, moi, il va décliner ses preuves. Mais mon objectif, en fait, du moins, notre objectif ici, c'est de dire ce qui va bien et ce qui
ne va pas.
C'est ce que j'ai fait ici. Alors, le service public, bon, moi, j'ai dit, quand on prend l'enseignement, les résultats sont là, non? Des différents examens officiels. Malgré les conditions dans lesquelles les enseignants ont travaillé, sous l'effet Covid et tout ça, ils sont rentrés là-dedans. Les infirmiers, les médecins sont morts pour seulement la mémoire de ces personnes-là. Les enseignants ont été assassinés, soit par leurs élèves, soit à cause de l'instabilité qu'il y a dans certaines de nos régions. Ils n'ont pas eu peur d'aller faire leur travail. Donc, je pense que dire que le service public n'est pas effectif, c'est une insulte.
Okay.
Je veux dire que le service public est une réalité dans notre pays. Au sein de ce service public, il y a des brebis galeuses qui peuvent nuire au bon fonctionnement de la chaîne. Le chef d'État a souvent pris des décisions suspendant certains fonctionnaires de soit de leur fonction, soit de leur corporation. Hein? On a révoqué des magistrats, on a révoqué les policiers, hein, les commissaires et tout ça. On a révoqué un certain nombre de personnes parce que quand ça arrive là où il faut, les décisions sont prises. Maintenant, aux citoyens de participer. L'action publique n'appartient pas que à ceux qui exercent ce travail-là. L'action publique appartient à tout le monde. Si vous avez la preuve d'une corruption quelque part, et je pense que le service public a des institutions qui en sont, qui en ont la charge de sévir, de combattre contre, par exemple, la corruption. Oui. Aujourd'hui, il s'est tenu à la région ici une réunion de ce type avec la CONAC qui a évalué le niveau de corruption dans la région du littoral. Et ça ne s'est pas fait avec ça ne s'est pas fait sous le langage protecteur. Ça a été fait, les acteurs se sont regardés dans les yeux pour dire quel est le niveau de corruption dans la région du littoral, qui a la ville, qui est une région très économique, qui tient le Cameroun. Donc c'est pour dire, pour chuter et dire que le service public, s'il n'était pas effectif, peut-être qu'on ne dormirait pas chez nous. À toute quiétude, la police et tout ça. Si vous allez dans les services d'urgence là, dans les hôpitaux, vous allez trouver qu'il y en a des infirmiers.
Yeah, but they have to be there. But they have to be there. But the problem is, how do they take care of those who come there? Maybe you have to give them something before.
Pas tout. La corruption existe. On va pas nier cela. Mais c'est pas tout le monde qui est corrompu.
Now, we know that most countries, the force that drives most economies in most countries across the globe is the private sector. How is the civil service in Cameroon helping the growth of the private sector? Or the civil service is also positioning itself as a core competitor of the private sector?
The civil service, because of its laxity and ineffectiveness, is pushing the private sector. No, I have to be very serious. You can't take that one from me because I have lived in it. The civil service, because of ineffectiveness and its laxity, it is pushing the private sector to be very, very competitive. As a matter of fact, schools, hospitals, and other institutions in the private sector, they have looked at the weaknesses of the public sector and then upgrade their standard. If you go to private hospitals, like I will not cite, I want to advertise any hospital here. If you look at the attention of the nurses, the care they give to you, minus the money you are paying, which is not even up to the civil service, you will discover that some level of decorum and integrity is in the private sector. Why? The private sector depends on what comes in to pay its workers. The civil service does not depend on what comes in. It depends on the taxes of the people. A policeman does not produce any income. They only give security. There is no portion in police that generates money. The military does not have any sector it generates money. It only consumes. It is the taxes of other departments and the private sector that pays the military. Have you ever seen military selling rice? Do they have granite they are selling? For schools collect school fees, which is PTA. And sometimes that money is being used to cater for people. There are sectors in this country, in the civil sector, that does not generate any income. Military consume money for uniform, for helmet, for guns, for bullets. What do they say in return? Nothing. So it is definitely telling us that there are some portion of the civil service that only consumes and does not produce. But the private sector, if you are going to do business there, you have to depend on what comes in to give out to those who are working. So you must be forced to be competitive and work very hard. I'm talking like somebody who owns a school. I'm talking like somebody who owns a farm, and I own a company.
Yes, but a little bit more or away from what my question is. It is the private sector that brings in the money.
Of course.
But how does the civil service, because there are sectors in the civil service, in the government apparatus, that are supposed to provide an enabling environment for the private sector to be able to be more productive, so as to pay more taxes to the state. Do we see the civil service working for the growth of the private sector?
They don't. They do not work for the government because why? For instance, if you want to open a company in Cameroon, you go to the office of the taxation office to open a company. Sometimes the amount of money they will ask from you can even discourage you from opening that company. That is a civil service puncturing the private sector. I hope you get what I'm saying. They are not helping situations at all. Because if you look at the level of corruption, in this country, there are people who have come to open farms. They go to the civil service to get legalization. The amount of money they ask them for that document is a serious concern. There are people who have come to this company to open companies. When they go to pursue the documents to open the company, the amount of money they ask from them is a serious challenge. People have come with so many great visions in this country, and they were punctured by the civil service because they were not given legalization on how to operate. So you discover that the civil service, because of its high level of corruption, has built a wall that limits the private sector from expanding. There are documents, if you access in this nation, you can do business at a very wider range. But you discover that because it is civil servants who have to put their stamp on those documents, it becomes very difficult for somebody to get a common document. I know of people level came here with projects drafted just to get documents to finalize those projects. Civil service in the ministries asked them 50 million. Now, if a man is asked 50 million because he wants to open a company that can employ at least 1,000 Cameroonians, how is the civil service sector helping the private sector to grow? Where almost every office you enter, even you enter in an office to see a secretary that will allow you to see a boss, you must press something at the entrance. Are they there to serve the interest of the population or to fill their stomachs at the expense of the population? Are they there to jeopardize the well-being of the entire state because of their self-aggrandizement, selfish, egocentric dimensions in operation, or what? I think we should come to a place of understanding that, okay, it is not fun that you as a Cameroonian, you don't have an ID card. That's the civil service. An ID card that can permit you circulate in the country and do business successfully, sometimes you run after it for 6 months. Do I need to fast to be identified as a Cameroonian? Everything about me shows I'm a Cameroonian. There are people who have gone to do passport to go outside and do business or bring money to this economy. What we have in Cameroon is capital flight, and it's very delicate. Capital flight is when more money leaves a country out than what is coming in. Chinese don't bank with us. If you go to most of the banks, they do the transfer. Western Union, billions are leaving this country, but not Nigeria. Nigeria has a system of government whereby you must open an account in their country before you transfer money there. The highest amount of money you can transfer from Nigeria to Western Union is $500. Somebody was to send me 10 million from Nigeria. There was no way. They needed to put it in an account there. Since you have an account here, they move from account here and put in my account. Capital flight. We don't have security measures that secure finances in this country. Ours is going out. Our security system financially is very porous. So much money leaves this country or is coming in. Now somebody needs a passport to fly to Japan and buy cars. They ask you 300,000 for passport. Is that not civil sector puncturing the private sector from growing? The issue of documents. I know a guy who came to open 100 hectares of palms. Because he went for documentation, they asked him 20 million. He abandoned the project. Who is puncturing who? The system is so tight-fisted to a level whereby it has suffocated many dreams that came here because of documents.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Liu. I know of the grade 1 teacher who was earning 75,000 francs a salary while he was taking a part-time job in a private secondary in Kawakawa. Don't know what Kawakawa. What he did is giving us a mental to be solving while he runs to the secondary school to teach for 2 hours and run back. Why was he doing that? Because what he received as a salary could not properly take care of him and his family. Good evening to you in the studio. When a true CPDM speaks, you know at once, even though the other panelists are pointing the laxity and corruption of the civil service. Philip is writing from Kumba. This one's Njoh. Richard says, if Gaga Haman with Operation Shas Obalen was given a free hand, in 1991-1992, laxity, corruption, and incompetence should have been a thing of the past. Good evening to you, Deputy, watching us from Bonaberi in Douala. About 75% of civil servants in Cameroon are squared pegs in triangular holes. Why? Because they enter into the civil service just for the matricles and monthly salary and not for the love of the job. They are therefore not creative and can't deliver. Tabot Machiavelli is writing from Yaoundé. Evening, Mr. Leo, your program is very educative. The corruption is very big of the paid package. How do you imagine a magistrate has a salary of less than 250,000 francs after bribery into Enam? He spends like 5 million. How is he going to have that money back? Salaries should be increased. The government should do something. Ashu is writing from where? Good evening to you all. People always complain about teachers that their hands are very strong. Teachers like those coming out from higher teachers training college are the first category in the country, but a first school holder in the army earns more salary than them. So we should not blame teachers. Their stress is too much. Frankie P. Moto, writing from K-Town. That is an information that we will need to clarify, because I'm sure it's not true. Good evening, sirs, in the studio. You people are doing a wonderful job. Thanks for speaking out about the teachers' situation in Cameroon. Most of our denominational and private school teachers are living like beggars in our communities. Move on. What you people are discussing in the studio, there are someone somewhere listening. Martin is writing from Mutengene. The problem with this country is too much Godfather, too much man no man. Divine writing from Bafu Sam. Most people join public service not for passion but out of frustration, the matricule syndrome, given that the private sector has been pressed down by the regime. Bongzem is writing from Kumbo, that is in Bui division. Now, is the problem with the civil service the motivations to join it? Is the motivation, I mean, for teachers, magistrates, and the rest, is it to actually serve Cameroonians or to have the matricule? And is the problem also at the level of the selection of those who are given the opportunity to serve Cameroonians?
Sure, Mr. Leo, the first aspect is that most people who enter the civil service do so as a way to earn a living. That's the first aspect, because they do it as a way to survive. And secondly, what also makes the civil service very, very complicated, or what makes some of them not to be able to actually serve, is because a majority of them enter through what one audience said there, that through godfatherism. You will tell me, we know very well. I'll give you a very simple example, Monsieur. In 2013, I actually sat for ENS. And I went in for bilingual letters. In University of Bamenda, they needed 30 students. Now, when you say 30, it is from the 10 regions. It's not as if it's not on salary. We need 30. The issue is how many government schools graduate children who have advanced level each year. So, and at times when you go to a higher one, because that one teaching to big people, teaching is for the commoners. Now go to schools like Enam, Emia. Any 15 people in Cameroon. You don't want to tell me that you had a master's degree more than other person. So when you look at it, it is a kind of, it's a cankerworm that started long ago. Since somebody spent huge sums to get where the person is, the person too wants to do everything to recover what the person has spent. It's very clear, and when this is being done, you discover that the person now cannot actually sacrifice. And at times, given that a majority of those who get into this position, I'm not saying that at all, a majority of those who get into some of these big schools are not actually those who have the savoir-faire, are not actually those who have the know-how. It's just some persons, because they have some person somewhere. There is somebody in this country who is the assistant to The SGO has never passed through a NAM, whereas you must pass through a NAM before you get to stages like that. We know people who are senior lecturers in the university without having a PhD. We should not call people's names, but we know them. Somebody was recently appointed a director in one of the big universities here in Douala with a master's degree. And you will come now and meet somebody who has a PhD or maybe 15 years of experience. You are his boss. Okay. So, yeah. So the bottom line is just an issue of, it's a whole chain where people enter into the public service, maybe because of, some enter because of godfatherism, not all. Some enter because they actually married. But now, those who enter because they don't actually have the know-how, it's the normal that you don't expect them to be creative. You don't expect them to actually give. You cannot give what you don't have. You only give what you have. Huh? I've watched lecturers when I was in UB. I've watched lecturers who teach in Pidgin. Because you start asking yourself how the person does well found. It's true that the person may have the know-how, but how do you find yourself teaching chemistry? I've told people chemistry and chemistry are two different things. You don't bring them together.
Okay, you don't bring them together. Mr. Njoh, how do we get Cameroon's public service to work completely in the interest of Cameroonians, especially as Cameroon looks forward to becoming an emerging nation by 2035?
L'émergence en 2035 est un projet global qui n'est pas réservé à l'administration ou au service public. Mais l'administration a un rôle très important parce que l'administration doit accompagner ce projet. Parce que c'est l'administration qui régule toutes les entités, toutes les composantes qui doivent amener le pays à l'atteinte de ce point, c'est-à-dire à l'atteinte de l'émergence. Permettez que je revienne sur ce qu'a dit le frère d'en face. Le service public et le service privé, c'est deux entités différentes. Par leur mission, par les objectifs et par les buts. Un service public régule le fonctionnement d'une nation. Par conséquent, accompagne les structures privées dans leurs objectifs à atteindre. Il les assiste même. On a vu dernièrement avec la question sur le Covid, où l'État prévoit injecter des fonds pour soutenir des structures, des entreprises qui ont été impactées négativement par la pandémie du Covid. Donc, pour dire, c'est en vue, ça va être fait. Ça va être fait. Okay. Ça va être fait parce que ça a été déjà dit. Okay. Il y a des mécanismes qu'il faut accomplir pour que la réalisation soit effective. Okay. Mais tant que, si c'est dit, si c'est déjà dit, ça veut dire que la chose, le projet n'attend qu'à être réalisé.
Comme le statut spécial depuis 1996.
C'est en train d'arriver aujourd'hui. L'essentiel, excusez-moi, l'essentiel, c'est son aboutissement. L'essentiel, c'est l'aboutissement. La nation est un legs. C'est un legs. C'est un héritage commun. Nous, on va laisser cette nation avec des projets que nos enfants et nos petits-enfants vont mettre en place. C'est pas pour autant que si nous ne sommes pas là, le pays va arrêter de fonctionner. Donc, pour dire que l'État a ses missions, l'État a ses compétences, l'État a ses objectifs à atteindre, l'État a ses résultats. Une entreprise privée qui veut faire un chiffre d'affaires et un ministère qui doit, de façon globale, atteindre ses objectifs, c'est aussi des résultats. Donc, quand vous dites que certains services publics ou le service public ne produit pas, je vais dire, je m'importe en faux. Je dis non, vous n'allez pas dire cela.
Non, je n'ai pas dit ça.
Bon, peut-être je vous ai mal saisi.
Je dis que
oui.
Le service public n'aide pas les services privés par rapport à certains dossiers. Les gens ont venu pour investir l'argent qu'on les a demandé pour ouvrir une société qui va bénir le pays.
Même sur ce plan-là, vous êtes très radical dans votre discours.
C'est la vérité.
Quand on voit, pour prendre par exemple le ministère en charge des petites et moyennes entreprises, comment est-ce qu'il se déploie pour accompagner les créateurs d'entreprises? Vous ne pouvez pas dire de façon radicale que ce n'est rien n'est fait. Il peut avoir.
Il y a les impôts. Il y a les impôts. Tu crées une petite boutique au quartier.
Attends, on va venir vers moi.
On n'a pas de temps.
Il y a un allègement.
Non.
Il y a un allègement fiscal.
Non.
Qui est fait, qui est accordé aux créateurs d'entreprises aujourd'hui.
Okay. Let me take some messages, Mr. Liu. For us to get the best out of every sector in Cameroon is only the first of all changing the government in place. Good day. Okay, thank you for your contribution. This Cameroon is a bad place to be for every where give my own and go there get can never stop. God help us. Ernest is writing from Ekuna. This one says Cameroon survival is survival for the fittest. Okay. Jeremy from Gabon says really a brother with red words are really educative from Cameroonians. God bless you, my brother. This one says I see no problem with civil servants in Cameroon, but the process of recruitment and payment for one to enter into a civil service, he must have given a brown envelope to the hierarchy concerned, and the payback is low. Is James Atabo in Tombel, and a big hand of congrats to Joel. This one, Mohamedou from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. And co-civil service in Cameroon is poorly due to lack of supervision. Also, you need to have a godfather before you can advance. Good evening to you, Mohamedou. I'm sure I took that message already. This one says Nzinze writing from Yaoundé, private schools are seen to perform well because not every student in Form 5 and upper 6 are registered as internal students. Only the best and the average ones are registered as internal students. Nzinze, I'll make my research. Good. In Cameroon, we have civil warriors, not civil servants. I was greatly embarrassed today in the transport office in Kumba. I went there to get an information, but they were only interested in money, as if I needed to buy the information. At the end of it, I was asked to leave the office if I am not willing to comply. Divine is writing from Kumba. Okay, Divine, my share for what you went through today. This one says, good evening to you all. Wise patriotic panelists, it is a bad idea and illogical for a group of unarmed persons to go out against the chief of the armed forces of an entire nation. Yes, some KAMTO'S lights may say you English went out to liberate your so-called state and yet don't want us to liberate us. Agbo Eno Baldwin, writing from where I don't know. Good evening to you, Agbo. Good evening, Mr. Liu and my fellow senior citizens. I think Mr. KAMTO'S is backed by an international body. I am not a politician. If I must speak politically, KAMTO'S is a dice to change or cure the political ulcer. Okay, in Cameroon, Prince 4 is writing from Douala. Good evening, Mr. Liu. We should not underestimate Professor Maurice KAMTO'S. Maybe he has facts that President Biya is dead and the ministers are hiding it. Enoch is writing from Kumba. We have to end here. Professor Apostle. Why do I like calling you Professor?
That's why I am.
Apostle Ambe, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Liu, and thank you, televiewers of Prime Hour. We'll always be here to contribute and educate you. The civil service of Cameroon should stop suffocating private sector. I beg you, civil servants, allow us have documents that will make us grow this economy. God bless you.
Thank you too, Prince Joel, for coming.
Thank you very much for having me on the platform, Mr. Leo. It's always a privilege to be there. A special good evening to Yaga NS that is watching somewhere in Mutengene. And to all those who are part and parcel of the Nchani Cultural and Development Association that are planning to be in Bafoussam on Saturday.
We equally want to say thank you to you, Mr. Njoh Valentin.
Merci. Bon, je ne peux que dire merci à Prime TV qui fait confiance au RDPC, qui ne cesse pas d'inviter le parti pour qu'il vienne donner aux citoyens camerounais sa vision du fonctionnement des institutions de la République. Je vous dis merci pour cela et j'appelle tous les compatriotes qui sont appelés acteurs dans le processus électoral en cours avec les élections régionales d'aller voter massivement les conseillers municipaux. J'en appelle à la conscience des uns et des autres et surtout aux citoyens camerounais qu'ils ne se laissent pas emporter par des discours qui ne tiennent pas. Le Cameroun est un et indivisible et il est fait pour tous ces...
Thank you very much, Mr. Njoh, and to the production team. We say thank you to you, Eli and Desmond and Paul, and you guys at the broadcasting. We're very grateful for the great job you are doing since morning. And to you, Tambe Bryant, we say thank you so much for the work you are doing out here also. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.